Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me for this Master of Construction Management orientation session. This session is really just to give you some insight into the course itself, some guidance in terms of selecting your subjects going forward, particularly for this year. And also at the end, where there's an opportunity for you to ask any questions you've got. So if you've got questions, please hold them to the end. You can put them in the chat box as well, and then I'll attempt to address them all at the end. Hopefully I'll only talk for half an hour, and then we'll have up to half an hour for any questions that you might have. So we'll get started. My name is Professor Robert Crawford. Many of you I've already met. It's great to be able to see you here. And it will be even greater to be able to see you in person on campus next week and over the coming weeks, fingers crossed, hopefully. Very exciting to be back on campus. So without further ado, as I said, I'm the program coordinator for the Masters of Construction Management. So any issues you have in relation to that, any questions, any guidance you need, I'm sort of your first point of contact. And all the other staff in the program are also people that you can go to for any support or assistance as well. So just to give you some insight into the strengths of the construction management program, obviously you've already, you understand a little bit about it, you've enrolled in it, you've accepted, and you understand the potential benefits that it can offer. But some of the key things that the value that we see out of the program is the links that we have with industry. So you'll get many opportunities to engage with industry throughout the program, to go on site visits, to have experts from industry come in and talk to you and work with you throughout your subjects within the course. And we have very strong links through our advisory board and other means as well within the program. We have very good employment outcomes for our students. So we find that any student that wants to get a job in the construction industry gets one. And we've tracked that over many years now. So very good employment outcomes if you want to get a job in the construction industry. And there are diverse possibilities for those jobs as well in your career trajectory. We have 3 specializations, which I'll talk about shortly, but we have people that go into a whole range of different roles within the industry, whether it's working for a builder or a contractor, for a quantity surveyor, for government, in research, either here, overseas. There are just so many different opportunities that you have, and it really does open up those opportunities. Once you actually understand the industry, you start networking and connecting with people. It really is a people industry, and the more you can connect and network, the better off you'll be in terms of getting jobs and developing yourself within the industry as well. Now, the Masters of Construction Management is a professional degree, so it gives you the professional skills and recognition that is needed to get certain jobs within the industry, particularly graduate roles. But it doesn't just give you the piece of paper to be able to get a job. It also develops you into someone that is able to contribute intellectually at a higher level than you might get from an undergraduate degree. So it allows you to have leadership roles or develop into leadership roles and to look at things more holistically in terms of improving the industry, making the industry better from a health and safety perspective, from an environmental perspective, and other elements as well. So it really does open up those opportunities for high-level leadership roles. And we have many examples of graduates from our program that have gone in to be, directors of their own companies or of large international companies in their own right. So yeah, that's the opportunity is there. If you want to grab it, then you have the absolute potential to make the most of whatever you want to do within this industry. So it does integrate present requirements of professional training and education. So basically you will develop skills needed to work in the industry as it is at the moment, but you need to understand that the industry evolves like any industry, and it will also allow you to develop the skills needed to be flexible and adaptable to the future industry and whatever it might be. Now, it's hard for us to know exactly what that might be, but you're developing the knowledge and the skills and the expertise to be able to adapt and to be able to be employable in whatever the future construction industry will be. Because remember, when you finish this course in 2 or 3 years' time, it will be different than what it is today as well. Now, as I said, there's a diverse range of employment opportunities within the program, and this is just some of the types of roles that our graduates end up in. They might end up in management type leadership roles in any scale of a building project, or civil engineering type projects as well. Students go into estimating and tendering, into project management roles, project planning, quantity surveying, cost management, property development. It really does set you up for a career in any one of these areas, and you can actually go down those different pathways with the knowledge that you have from this program, and also with the flexibility the program offers. So some of you will have multidisciplinary electives available, and they're very flexible. They can be taken from anywhere across the university, as I'll talk about shortly. And that allows you to expand your knowledge into sort of related but different areas within your learning, your course. They're the types of companies that employ our graduates. It's a very small selection of them. You've got some of the biggest, actually the biggest contractors or builders in Melbourne, Victoria and Australia, quantity surveyors and developers and so forth. But broad range of employers, as I said, R&D, government, industry, private and public sector, everything, essentially, you name it. Now, the quality of the program is demonstrated by the accreditations that we've got. So we have to go through a very, very rigorous, time-consuming process for our course to be accredited every year. And we have these bodies visit us every 5 years for an even more detailed assessment of our program to make sure that it's in line with current industry practice, current education outcomes, and so forth. So we have 4 bodies that accredit our program. We've only just been accredited by the CIOB recently. So we now have these 4, the Australian Institute of Building, AIQS, RICS, and the CIOB. So the last 2 are international bodies, the first 2 are obviously Australian bodies. And they allow you also to have membership with those bodies once you've completed the course. This provides the educational requirement for that accreditation. I also encourage you to look up the student memberships. So while you're a student, many of these bodies will offer a free membership or a very reduced low-cost membership. And that allows you to access their services, their networking events and workshops and all those sorts of things. Starts to get you engaged with the industry generally and other people working in the industry. And as I said, it's a people industry. Networking is really important. And these bodies will offer the opportunity to help expand your networks within the industry. There's our current staff in the program. So we have around 17. We've got their staff. There's, I'm not going to go through all of them. Valerie Francis is the first on the top left. She's the chair of our program. And then you've got me, and then all of our other staff. The strength of this staff, the staff that you'll see and you'll come across in the program, is the breadth of expertise and skills, both within the industry, but also internationally. So we have people from pretty much every continent of the world and a broad range of expertise. Many of the staff are internationally recognised for their teaching and research. And I really encourage you to get to know the staff in the program. We're here to support you and to be here for you for anything that you need. So if you've got any questions, need any support, anything like that, please get in touch with us. Email us, call us, come and see us after the end of your classes. We are here. We consider all of us collectively as a construction family of the university and of the faculty. And therefore we see you as part of us, part of our construction team and family. And we want to help support you in developing your knowledge and expertise in the industry, and also helping you transition to a career in the industry as well. I think I've highlighted Vidal Patton-Cole there because he teaches one of our first semester subjects, construction of buildings. Arjabadi, again, a first semester subject. But I'll go through those in a bit more detail now. So in your first semester, if you're doing the full 300 points, if you haven't been given any advanced standing, these are the 4 subjects that you would do, and they're the coordinators of each of those subjects. That's for your first semester. In the second semester, again, if you haven't been given advanced standing for those subjects, they are the subjects that you'll most likely be doing. and they're the coordinators that you will see within those subjects. Now, the program is a 3-year program, or what we call 300 points. So every year is 100 points. There are 2 semesters, 12 weeks per semester. There is a mid-semester break in between those 12 weeks, around about halfway. And there's a SWAT-VAC week, which is a study week. So study without teaching, vacation. So that's directly after the 12 weeks. It gives you a week to study for your exams. And then there's an exam period of 3 weeks at the end of each semester. Your exams can be spread wherever within those 3 weeks. We have no control over that. It's just whenever they are. So I strongly recommend that you don't book any travel within the 3-week exam period until at least you know when your exams are, which is generally around about early May for the first semester. You can also do intensives in the June, September and summer periods. So that's in between semesters, or in the middle of the second semester, or over summer. And there's some subjects available for that. Intensives are a 1 or 2 week subject typically that you do as a full week, 5 days or thereabouts, or 10 days. And you get it over and done with pretty quick. And then you've got some time to do your assignments after that, before the next semester starts, generally. Full-time load is 8 subjects per year, so 4 subjects per semester. Each one of those is 12.5 points. So you've got 50 points per semester, 100 points per year. Over 3 years, it's 300 points. You may have got some advanced standing for some of your subjects, so you may have less than 300 points to do. People that come from our undergraduate construction program will be doing a 200 point or a 2-year program. So they get credit for the full first year. Classes are in the daytime and evenings. We try and timetable our subjects for the later years in the evenings, because that's when people tend to be working more. We can't put every subject in the evenings or every subject during the day, just because of the space availability and the availability of our lecturers as well, our staff. So this is the structure for the first year of the 300-point program. Okay, the subjects I've just gone through. If you have had no advanced standing, you'll be doing all of these subjects, or you may have got some credit for some of them, and so you might have to replace some of these subjects. And I'll talk about what you might do in that situation in a minute. But really, let's just give you the background that you would have got from an undergraduate construction degree, essentially. But what it also does is it gives you some context for those of you that may not be from Melbourne or Australia. It gives you the Australian context for many of these topics as well. So you may have done some law in your undergraduate degree, but this is law related to the Australian context, because many of you may want to work in Australia at some point, and you need to be obviously aware of the Australian situation. But saying that, we do make sure that we're referring to international examples and making sure that you're capable of working internationally, not just in Melbourne or Australia. As I mentioned before, we have 3 specialisations. So we have building, cost management and project management. Most students do the building or cost management specialisations. A smaller proportion do the project management. Project management is typically recommended only for those that have worked in the industry already, or have an architecture background, because it really focuses on working client side with the broader construction project team, and it helps to have that knowledge of part of the development process or the construction process or the design process already. The building one is really for people focused on wanting to work for a builder or a contractor, typically speaking. And the cost management specialisation, I would recommend that for people that want to be a quantity surveyor, estimator, those sorts of roles. You can do multiple specialisations if you can fit it within your program. All right, so if you've got some spare electives, you can end up doing the core specialisation subjects from another specialisation in your elective spaces and end up doing 2 of them. Now, just keep in mind that your transcript at the end and your testament won't mention which specialisation you've done. Okay, so it's really just about developing the necessary skills to go into the role that you want. So if you want to be a quantity surveyor, you want to be able to cost buildings, then doing the cost management one will give you 2 or 3 extra subjects, actually 3 extra subjects, that you wouldn't do if you were doing one of the other specialisations in relation to cost management and quantity surveying. So it just gives you the extra knowledge and skills needed to be better in that role as a quantity surveyor and to be more employable. Hopefully. And the same applies to the other 2 specialisations. Now, there are some common core subjects across those, and you'll see here that there are 3 common subjects in each semester of your second year. The first year is common to everyone, which is what I've shown already. The second year is common for 6 of the subjects to everyone, regardless of which specialisation you choose. And then depending on which specialisation you choose, you will do 2 different specialisation core subjects. All right, so no electives at this point. That's those. And the third year is where you've got predominantly electives. You have a common core capstone subject, which is project management. Everyone does that. And that brings together everything into a single team-based project, which aligns with typically what you would do in a construction project in real life. You've got 1 specialisation core. So you can see in total, there are 3 specialisation cores on the right-hand side there, 1 here and 2 in the previous year. You've got 2 specialisation electives. Now, each specialisation has a list of electives you can choose from for those 2 subjects. Okay, now if there's some subjects you really want to do that aren't on your list, I can add a subject to that in exceptional circumstances. But it is possible to be flexible with those a little bit. The last semester is your multidisciplinary electives, and I'll talk about these shortly, but these are much more flexible. And some of you may have these, some of you may have been given credit for these already. Now in your second and third year for the building specialisation, they're your 3 core specialisation subjects on the left and an example of the specialisation elective subjects on the right. There's a much more extensive list that you can choose from though. Same for the cost management. You've got the specialisation core subjects there on the left and a selection of the elective subjects on the right. And that's for the project management. This is all available. It will be in your study plan. Once you choose your specialisation, it will just pop up in your study plan. Or you can also see it at the option, the link down there below, which is the handbook, basically. There's a handbook entry for each of the specialisations. You can see what the core subjects are and what specialisation electives are available for each of those specialisations. Now, multidisciplinary electives. These are the, in a way, exciting ones because they give you a lot more flexibility in terms of what you're studying. If you don't have these available, you've been given credit for them, which is great because obviously it reduces your course duration because you've done some relevant studies in the past at your 4th or 5th year of your undergraduate degree. But it means that you don't obviously have that flexibility to be able to do some extra electives. You only have the other 2 specialisation electives. Those that do have these available, what you can do with these is you can study subjects from across the program, across the rest of the faculty, and across the rest of the university. Okay, so if you've established a real interest in law, construction law, for example, you can do an extra 4 subjects in construction law from the law faculty. If you've established an interest in business, in establishing your own construction business or something like that, you can do some subjects from the business school. So if you've established an interest in property development, you can do some subjects from the property program. So it really, and this is why they're sort of placed right at the end of the program, it really opens up your options in terms of exploring something in more depth that you've established a real keen interest in. Now, if those subjects come from outside of our faculty, so they're not ABPL subjects, I have to approve them. So all you need to do is email me and say, can I please do this as one of my MDE subjects? And I'll check it out to see if it relates. And I'll say, okay. It has to be something that's going to help build and support your construction career. But that's quite flexible. I've had students in the past that have done Japanese because they've wanted to go and work in Japan. And it's helped support them in their opportunities that they might get in working in Japan. So it is very flexible, but I wouldn't try and do things like African drum beating or glee dancing and things like that. Okay, so common uses of MDEs. On top of that, there's a subject that many of our students will do called presenting academic discourse. It's not in our faculty, it's one I would have to approve, but it is something that I recommend to people that don't have a native English background and you haven't had a lot of experience in academic writing in English. So it's a good one to use one of your MDEs for. If you want that expertise and that extra support early on in your program. So if you've got an extra space because you've got some advanced standing for a subject in your first year, it's a good one just to put into there and do that early to help you with those skills. Many of our students do subjects from the property program, from management. They will use some of the MDEs for winter and September and summer intensives as well. We don't have any core subjects in the construction program that you can take outside of the main 2 semesters. So if you want to catch up or you want to speed up your course completion, you can often use your MDEs to do intensives in the breaks, and that can help you with that. You can also use these for study abroad or exchange. We have a few students each year that go overseas. We haven't obviously had that for the last couple of years, but that should be a possibility this year. So if you want to do that, have a think about that also. It might be this year, next year, the year after. We have some links to universities overseas where you can complete some of your construction studies as your MDE subjects over there. Either one subject, or you can do a couple of subjects at a time, or even sometimes a full semester. And we also have a new subject called the Construction Management Internship. It's a 25-point subject. So you would have to use 2 of your MDE subjects, or you can also use your construction elective subjects. And that's where you have an internship in industry. You have to find the company. We can support you with that. But essentially you have to identify an appropriate organisation, and we can then help support you with establishing and setting up that internship and that relationship to do that subject. That's something you have to do after you've completed 100 points, or you can only do after you've completed 100 points of your program, and you have to be achieving a 75-point WAM, or weighted average mark, for all the subjects you've done at that point. We also have a research pathway. This is where you can basically be prepared to prepare yourself to undertake a higher degree by research. So I'm talking about a Master of Philosophy or a PhD. Everyone does a research in construction subject as a core subject, and that's really learning about research methods, developing a research proposal. You can then go on and if you achieve 75% in that subject, or more, you can do the subject called Research Practicum in Construction as one of your elective subjects, or as an MDE. And by doing that, basically builds upon the research proposal you've done in your Research in Construction subject. And by doing those 2 subjects, it's equivalent to 10,000 words. And it then gives you the requirement to be able to be eligible for a PhD. There are other eligibility requirements for a PhD entry or an MPhil entry. Including the sort of marks that you've achieved overall for your course, but that gives you the thesis component. You've got to prove that you've written at least 10,000 words, essentially, to be able to go into a high degree. So that just is a pathway that some of you may be interested in, and it's good to be aware of that now, because you would have to make sure, if you're going down that pathway, that you did your research in construction subject not in your final semester, because you need time then to do the research practicum subject the following semester. Now, some selection considerations when you're choosing your subjects. Make sure, ideally, that you complete your core subjects first, where possible. Sometimes you might not meet the prerequisites and you have to move an elective up into that space. Check the timetable, make sure there's no clashes between the subjects you want to do. There will be no clashes between core subjects within or even across the years. And also check the prerequisites so you meet those. In some circumstances, I can waive the prerequisites, but not always. So make sure that before you start considering taking a subject that you meet those prerequisites, and then you can enroll in those subjects yourself. This is the timetable as it stands for first semester. I don't expect you to memorize all of that or anything like that, but the week is fairly full. We try and condense each year level to 3 to 4 days at the most, so you're not coming in every single day of the week. It depends on which electives you take though as well. So you may end up being here 5 days a week, potentially, depending on which subjects you take and which tutorials you enroll in for a subject. But we try to make it that the lectures themselves for one particular year level cohort are not spread across more than usually 3 days at the most. Now for semester 1, they're the 4 subjects again that you'll be doing if you haven't been given advanced standing for those. If you have been given advanced standing for them, then what you can do, just some examples, that you might, for example, if you've been given credit for cost management, you might do construction cost planning. You may be eligible for that straight away. You might choose to do an elective or a multidisciplinary elective. Lean construction is one of them. Presenting academic discourse is another one that may be relevant to you. So you can move one of those electives up into the first year. Construction regulations and control is one that I often weigh prerequisites for. If you've got a semi-cognate background, maybe in architecture or engineering, you've got some knowledge of what regulations are. I can often weigh the prerequisites for that if you've done a few of the other, or got credit for a few of the other, maybe 2 or 3 of the other first year subjects. The other thing you can also do is you can actually apply for reduced study load. So sometimes if you've got advanced standing, you've got space in your program for a bit of flexibility, and you can actually reduce your study load down to 3 subjects and still be considered full-time for visa requirements. You just need to make sure you apply. And if you want to do that, I would just Google UniMelb reduced study load, and you'll come up with the webpage that guides you through that process. For semester 2, here's the 4 core subjects you would typically be doing. If you need extra semester 2 subjects because you've been given advanced standing for those, I would suggest building services and operations, which is a second year semester 2 subject normally, if you've been given credit for environmental systems. Okay, so that's one you can put into your first year, second semester if you need a subject there. Construction measurement and estimating, if you've been given credit for cost management, it's the next subject along that you might be able to do. Life cycle analysis and sustainability is one that's a core for the cost management specialisation. That's another one you could put into the first year, second semester. And or you could do one of your electives as well to fill in the space you might have there. And again, if you want to reduce your study load to 3 subjects because you're working as well or doing other things, then you can also potentially do that. But please talk to me about that first. There are options. Many students want to try and complete their course as quickly as possible because you want to get out and work and earn some money, which is fair enough. The options for doing that are overloading. So you can do up to 5 subjects per semester. There are conditions around that. So you have to be achieving at least 70% course weighted average mark, or WAM. So it's the average of all of your subjects up until that point. You cannot do that in your first semester because you don't have a WAM at that point. You can only do that from your second semester. You have to have not failed any subjects as well. And there is a link there. Again, if you just search for UniMelb overload, you will find the link to that. So you can reduce your study load, but you can also overload. And the guidance for applying for that is there. And as I mentioned before, you can do an intensive in either the winter break, the September break between, in the mid-semester break in semester 2, or the summer break. You can do intensives as well. And that's where you would typically be using your multidisciplinary electives if you have them. Now, advanced standing is assessed as part of your application process. Okay, so your application has already been assessed for advanced standing, and you've been offered advanced standing where it's applicable. You are not able to gain any further advanced standing unless your circumstances have changed. So since the time you applied and you were sent an offer and you have done some additional study that's relevant, then you can ask to have your extra study reassessed or assessed for the first time for any advanced standing. But if nothing's changed since you applied, then you will not be likely to get any further advanced standing. We do not reassess it. Otherwise, we'd have to reassess everyone's again, which defeats the whole purpose. Just remember that there might be some subjects you're doing that seem fairly similar to subjects you might have done in your previous degree. There might be 50, 60% similar maybe, but the other 30, 40, 50% is unique, and it's important that you have that knowledge. So we understand that there might be some replication or duplication of studies you've done in the past, but it's important that you have the complete knowledge that we offer in the program, particularly of your core subjects. That might be Australian context, for example, or it might be other things that are on top of what you would have done in your previous subjects that seem to be fairly similar. If you do have major concerns that you think that you've done the content of a particular subject, you've studied the content of a particular subject before, the first port of call is your subject coordinator for that subject. So talk to them. They'll want to see your a syllabus for the particular subject, and they may want to talk to you. They may ask you to do an exam for the subject, or at least part of the exam, just to see what your skills are like and what your knowledge is like, to see whether maybe you are eligible for some advanced standing for that subject. But that's something you have to take up with the subject coordinator, and I wouldn't, in most cases, it very rarely happens. So don't see that as an avenue to explore in every single situation. Now, we have expectations as you do as well, and it would be good for us to understand your expectations, and hopefully your lecturers will ask you what your expectations are in the first classes next week. But my expectations, or actually our expectations as a body of staff within the construction program, is that you attend class, that you engage in class. You can only get the most out of this if you actually engage and you attend the classes that you're meant to attend. It really does support you and develop you in a much faster way and to a much higher level, and you're much more ready to work in the industry. All right, you're more competitive for jobs, more competitive when you go for those interviews, because you can talk about, you understand the industry. You've got the networks as well, so you've engaged with industry that have come into your lectures. You've engaged on site visits because you've attended all the classes. You've engaged in the different clubs and associations as well and their activities, the industry nights. By engaging and being involved in all of those things, it better prepares you for opportunities that lay ahead in terms of getting a job, but also the opportunities that exist within those roles to develop you and build you into leaders within the industry. There's a whole lot of policies, student policies. I'm not going to go through those now, but please make yourselves aware of those, particularly in relation to plagiarism and collusion, so academic integrity in particular. Every year there are people that get caught up with plagiarising, colluding, using past students' work, not referencing properly, all those sorts of things. If you're not sure how to do something, please ask someone, search out the resources to do it. It's a very serious offence, and you can actually lose your place in the course if you are caught doing any of these things. So very serious, and please make yourselves well aware, particularly in relation to what plagiarism and collusion are. Now, as you know, I've already told you who I am. I'm program coordinator, and I'm here to support you with any questions you've got about study planning, career guidance, just general course issues, questions that might arise throughout your course. I have weekly consultation sessions which run on Tuesdays from 1:30 to around 2:30, depending on when the last person leaves. They still at this point are online, and I have sent you an email already. Hopefully you've had a look at that and read of that with the link. This is the short link. You'll probably need the full link, otherwise you need the password as well. But there is a link there to access those sessions. They are individual sessions. So it's a waiting room basis, so first come, first served, until everyone's left. So please be patient. Please hang around in the waiting room until I get to you. I will get to you eventually. This time is a very busy time of semester. So hopefully you've all dealt with your study plans and you know what you're studying. If not, the next session happens next Tuesday. So I can see you there. If there's any urgent queries, generally I recommend you don't email me for just general non-urgent queries, because I may take longer than you want to get back to you, and I may miss your email sometimes given the size of my inbox. But if there's anything urgent, please do email me, come and see me, call me, and I can deal with that on as needs basis. As I said, I and all the other construction staff are here to support you and help you out, and we will make ourselves available as much as we possibly can. There's also Stop 1. So this time of year, they're extremely busy, but I also encourage you to contact them if you've got any sort of fee-based, enrolment-based issues. There's only so many things I can do. They will help you support you in relation to your enrolment side of things in particular, but they're also really good with academic skills and other types of services, financial services, housing services, those sorts of things. Good to go and talk to Stop 1 about. We've also got two key industry groups. The key one for us is the Construction Students Association. You may have had some contact with them already. They have a whole range of events that they have throughout the year. The Industry Night is one that's coming up on the 17th of March, so I strongly encourage you to go to that. It's going to be held on campus, if you can make it, obviously, and a whole lot of other events. They'll help you with developing your LinkedIn profile, your CV, interview skills, a whole lot of things that will help support you in developing you and your potential future career in the industry. The Built Industry Group is a more faculty-wide group. They cover all the disciplines pretty much in the faculty, including architecture, landscape, property, etc. They obviously put on separate events and functions and so forth, and so I encourage you also to engage with them and the sorts of things that they put on. Now, you would have already received information about the morning tea next week. I realise and acknowledge that some of you may not be in Melbourne, and we will have an online version of that morning tea for those of you that can't be there in person. But it will be really exciting to see as many of you as can be at the Welcome Morning Tea on the Japanese Terrace on level 4 of the MSD building, or Gwyn Davis building, next Monday at 10:30 a.m. You need to make sure you've got your vaccination certificate uploaded and all that sort of stuff to be able to access campus. But and make sure you register for that event, please, for catering and contact tracing, etc. purposes, all that sort of stuff, as soon as possible. So if you can do that by the end of today, that'd be fantastic if you're coming to that event. And the more people we can see there, the better. Most of our staff will be there to meet you, and you'll get to meet some fellow students as well. Great way to start networking and meeting people face to face. And that's it from me. I'm going to stop talking now, other than to answer your questions. But has anyone got any questions you'd like me to?